Namaskar, friends. We will discuss 10 more questions from our series. Do take a moment for the additional parallel learning through the images on the screen. Focus in this video is on various terms that have a background, such as kangaroo closure. And that there is Lady Maleficent. That's her English name, also known in many countries as Malefied. The word a good student of polity cannot run away from. Always act bona fide. That is a principle of natural justice, which we will talk about later in this video. So let's take the first question. And it says, which of the following statements is or are not correct? Okay, not correct. First, a judge of a high court holds office during the pleasure of the president. Now, this is not correct. They do not hold office during the pleasure of the president, and that shall be logical also, as judiciary has to be separated from the executive and the legislature. These judges, they hold office until the age of 62 years. Second statement, a judge of a high court may resign from the office by addressing the resignation to the president. Now, this is correct. So, as such, for this question, only first is the correct statement because it is asking not correct. However, nearly 60% of the respondents considered this second statement as incorrect statement, perhaps thinking they would submit their resignation to the governor. However, remember, High Court judges are also appointed by the president, and their resignation is also submitted to the president only. Anyhow, let's move to the next question, where it says following statements are correct regarding the questions of members in the Lok Sabha. Statement 1, a question may be addressed to a private member. Absolutely, this is correct. A question can be addressed to a private member also, provided that the subject matter of the question relates to some bill or a resolution or any other matter connected with the business of the house for which that member is responsible. So a question can be raised to them also. Second statement says not more than one starred question of a member is placed on the list on any one day. That is also correct. That's the general rule in the procedures of the House. And third statement says a starred question requires an oral answer. That is also correct because a starred question is conceptually for an oral answer. And since an oral reply is given, supplementary questions can be asked when the reply is given in the House. So the third and fourth, all these four statements are correct. And here is a sample of a question asked during the budget session of 2026. You may pause and have a look for yourself because I think it's good to also see how questions are written, how they're drafted. It's a simple idea. So we move on to the next question, but you please pause and have a look. Next question says the election of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha is held on such date as is fixed by. Now, as per the rules of the procedure of Lok Sabha, this is fixed by the president. So, president decides the date on which the election of the president will happen. Decently straightforward question, kind of obvious also. Good performance by those who attempted here. Then the next question is regarding the election of the deputy speaker. So, the election of the speaker is decided by, the date is decided by the president, while that of the deputy speaker, as per the rules of procedure of Lok Sabha, it is decided by the speaker. Again, decently logical. And that picture there is the House of Commons of the British Parliament. With such seating arrangement, as you can see, and being a two-party system, members shifting their political affiliation from one party to the other political party over a time has become a parliamentary phrase, crossing the floor of the House, the origin for anti-defection law in India. Then the next question says the chairpersons nominated by the speaker to preside over the House in the absence of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker shall hold office for how long? Now, as per the rules of procedure of Lok Sabha, again, it is until a new panel of chairperson is nominated. So there is no fixed term for them until the time the speaker or the next speaker then nominate new members. Remember also that these members of the panel were called chairpersons. They can preside only when the speaker and deputy speaker are absent, not when the posts are vacant. During the vacancy in both the posts, we have learnt earlier also, president shall appoint a member to preside, and that is what is casually referred as the speaker pro tem. Okay, so remember, absence and vacancy are two different things. Then, next question says, how many of the following statements are correct regarding the budget in parliament? Statement 1 says the expenditure that is charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India does not form part of the budget. Now, this is not correct. Even the charged expenditure, they are also part of the budget, but only for discussion. It does not form part of the budget that is voted, but it is definitely part of the budget. Okay, so it will be discussed but not voted. It is part of the budget. Statement 2 says that every appropriation bill is a money bill. Now, this is obviously correct. Most simply put, appropriation refers to allocation of money from the Consolidated Fund of India for withdrawal in future by the departments of the government. This, under Article 110 of the Constitution, is a money bill. So the third statement says Rajya Sabha does not vote on the demand for grants. This is also correct. Rajya Sabha can only discuss and offer some comments on the overall budget, that also within 14 days, but not undertake a vote on specific demands for grant of the ministries and departments of the government. And I hope you know that the word budget comes from the old French word bouzet, meaning a leather bag, traditionally in which the papers were kept by the finance ministers. Nowadays, our finance minister carries a symbolic red bahi khata style pouch with a digital tablet inside. So anyway, over time, it has evolved with technology and everything. Next question. How many of the statements are correct regarding the budgetary process? Again, well, a success rate of just about 20% for a fundamentals based question on budget speaks again about the command on the ABCD of the subject. If we know where we lack, then accordingly put effort to build capability. We cannot make mistakes on these kind of questions. First statement says no amendment can be proposed to the appropriation bill in any house that will vary the amount of a grant. This is absolutely correct. Appropriation bill is just a statement of all the demands for grant voted by the Lok Sabha. That means the grants are already voted and finalized by the Lok Sabha. So when the appropriation bill is taken for consideration by the Lok Sabha, no amendments in the grant can be proposed. It could have been moved in the form of cut motions when the demand for grant was taken, but not at the stage of appropriation bill. Similarly, second statement says amendments can be moved to reject or reduce a tax proposed in a finance bill. Now, this is correct. Since finance bill is taken in its entirety and no part of it was discussed earlier at the stage when the Lok Sabha takes up the finance bill, amendments can be proposed by the members. Third statement says guillotine is not applicable in the Rajya Sabha. Now, this is also correct. Guillotine with respect to the budgetary process, that is the appropriation bill, cannot be moved in Rajya Sabha. In simple words, Rajya Sabha does not have the power to reject or reduce any grant already approved by the Lok Sabha. There is no voting on the demands, right? Grants are already approved by Lok Sabha. So there is no voting that will take place. The maximum power Rajya Sabha has is to discuss the bills and return it to Lok Sabha with any recommendations or general comments. And this background here relates to filibuster, which is a political procedure where a legislator prolongs the debate on a proposed piece of legislation to delay or entirely prevent a vote, also known as talking a bill to death. It is a common obstructive tactic heavily associated with the United States Senate. Then the next question talks about which of the following is the primary reason behind the application of guillotine during the budgetary process in the parliament. Why does guillotine happen? See, guillotine is only a phrase, not an official term, wherein all the pending business and voting is concluded and all of it is clubbed together for voting in one go without any discussion. This happens on the last day allocated for discussion on the demand for grant. Since the time is limited and the financial year is coming to a close soon, like in the current year 2026, the guillotine was applied on the 19th of March, just about 10 days before the start of the next financial year. This procedure can be done for any business. However, it is very popular with respect to the budgetary process every year. So, technically speaking, guillotine can be applied in Rajya Sabha too, but not for money bills, as it has limited powers in such cases. So, not for budget, but for other bills, etc., Rajya Sabha also uses this kind of a tool. So, the correct answer here is the shortage of time for passage of budget. And this painting of the execution of Louis XVI after the French Revolution shows the actual guillotine. The same analogy why it is called so in the parliamentary process, as it cuts the ongoing process to bring it to an end abruptly. Let's see the next question. The principles of natural justice focus on which of the following aspects of justice? Let's also be clear as to what these principles are. There is no fixed way to explain these principles, but the most common idea is around three key pillars. First is the principle, what we say, audi alteram partem, that is to always listen to the other party and not decide by hearing or considering only one side. This ensures there is no biasness in the decision. It also means right to hearing to be given, and also that a speaking order has to be issued. That is, the order shall answer all the questions that are related to it, the grounds, the related laws, basis, reasons behind the order, and so on. Second principle is nemo judex in causa sua. Nemo judex in causa sua, which most simply we say no person shall be the judge of their own cause. Again, to not get biased while deciding. After all, justice should not only be done but should also be seen to have been done. And the third principle says every authority shall act bona fide, that is, in good faith and without any bias. Now, let's see the options given to us. First option says outcome oriented justice. Now, it is more to do with the procedure. Natural justice is more to do with the procedure and not so much with the outcome of it. Okay, so that's not the correct answer we're looking for. Second says judicial efficiency. Again, it is not about the efficiency, the output, or how fast or slow the system of justice works. In fact, these principles are not only for judiciary anyway. For every authority, right? Every authority, every officer, every department who's taking any decision, it applies. Similarly, there is nothing to do with accountability of judiciary in this. So C is also incorrect. Fourth option says transparency and impartiality. This is the correct option. As we have seen, it is about the procedural aspect of decision making with aim to make it more transparent and unbiased. That's the whole idea. So D is the correct answer here, and large number of us got it also. Then the next question and the last question of this video is the which of the following best describes the term police power of the state? Now, this is a term all of us have used, and I felt there is a need to bring clarity on this idea. As expected, nearly 75% related it only to law enforcement. Okay, three-fourths of us related only to law enforcement and the police making arrests. These two options. This only reflects what I keep saying. Knowing something is one thing, and having a conceptual understanding is another. And this exam, especially, is more and more becoming so in recent times. Not just because it's not just about knowing something, but more about ability to think deeply and connect. So, police power refers to the inherent and general authority of the government to enact laws to protect the health, safety, welfare of its citizens. The phrase essentially refers to the power to regulate, power to control the behavior of people. Okay. So, such as food safety regulations, quarantine, vaccinations, speed limits, criminal law, of course, environmental regulations. Whereas law enforcement is the next step. Once a state has got the power to regulate, then to enforce its regulations. Law enforcement refers to the specific actionable activities carried out by the police and other departments to enforce existing statutes, investigate crimes, apprehend individuals who are suspected of breaking the law, right? So the correct answer is C. And if you see the fourth option, which says power to use private resources for public purpose, this is related to the idea what is called the doctrine of eminent domain. That is the sovereign power of the state to take title or control of property and convert it to public use. Of course, that has to be done within the limits defined by the Constitution and as per the laws. So that's all for this discussion. Keep working hard. All the best.